Hey everybody, it's Hannah, and right now I have a yoga for heartburn video for you. So, what that means is if you're having one of those days where you cannot imagine going into a downward dog or an inversion, we're going to avoid any inversions today in this practice. So, maybe you have a headache, maybe you have other reasons that you'd prefer to avoid that, and this practice is also for you. Along those lines, in terms of setting intention, I thought we'd really focus on, since we were going to keep our heart up and our chest up throughout this practice, thought we'd tie that into the intention a little bit today. So, yoga has this really nice idea where you acknowledge your thoughts, acknowledge your feelings, and then you let them pass by you and continue to focus on being present in the moment. So, as we're thinking about keeping our hearts up and our hearts forward, I thought this would be good, especially if you were doing this practice because you're not feeling well but wanted to stay active, to really practice acknowledging what you're feeling and then continuing to move on and say, what can we continue to do? So we are acknowledging and validating our feelings, and maybe that we're not feeling so good today. And then we're continuing to focus on presence as we continue in our practice. So that's my intention for you today. As always, feel free to choose your own. And otherwise, let's get started. So we're going to go ahead and start with our feet hip width apart. Let's bring hands to heart and give ourselves a second to set your intention today. Again, whether that be what I shared with you or whether that be what you brought to your own practice today. So hands at heart center and take a few deep breaths. All right, and from here, keeping those feet hip width apart, we're going to take those arms up to the sky, engage the core lightly, and then sit back into your chair, arms coming back down into cactus arms right away here. Inhale up and exhale down into cactus. Good. If you prefer that narrow chair, feel free to do so. If you feel like you have to stay a little wider because of the belly today, that is also okay. So play with that position. Also think about the position of the hips. In that tilt, that you're not tilted too backwards where all that pressure is going to your low back. Kind of tilt forward just a little bit so your stomach is lightly engaged. Sorry if I got you off track there. If you kept going, just join back in. Good. But it's always good to take a moment to play with each position and make sure you're really getting the most out of it, that you're not in a position that makes you uncomfortable, but rather in a position where you feel like you're building something and doing something good for your body. Feel free to deepen in your chair pose as you get warmer here. Good. 3, 2, and last one. Holding down for just a second. Good. Bring those hands to heart here. You can make sure the shoulders are rolled back. Another good time to check in with your hip position again, that we're not arching too much, that we're just kind of tilting back and forth until you find that sweet spot that feels really good to your low back and your tummy. All right, so from this position, we're going to stand up. You're going to balance on one leg and bring the elbow towards the knee. Now notice we're not doing like a deep crunch. We're just keeping our chest up. And then we're bending back down into chair, lift tall on the other leg, elbow to knee. If balance-wise, this is not quite accessible for you today, feel free to do more of a toe tap and rotate. Toe tap and rotate. Or anywhere in between. So find that level that feels good to you, where you find challenge, but you also find success. What I mean by success is more that you feel like you're able to work towards something. So challenge and working towards something that feels good. Awesome. Breathe with it. Inhale, exhale. Again, just coming back to that intention, acknowledging anything you're feeling in your body, and then kind of moving on and staying present with what your body's doing. if you're like me and you have major monkey mind, so it's really hard for your brain to stay present because you're always kind of thinking about the next thing or the thing before. It's okay that you that you do that, and try not to judge yourself for those feelings either. Um, but rather just again, kind of bring yourself back to present, even if that lasts zero 0.5 seconds. I have many, many days like that. Good. One more each side. Last one. Good. And then staying feet out wide. We're going to actually widen the feet a little bit wider. We're going to come back to those cactus arms. So inhale up, exhale, deepen down, goddess squat, and cactus arms. Inhale up and down. Try not to let your back arch too much as you come up into this position. It gets real easy, and I think it kind of feels good partially to just arch the back, but we want to make sure we're keeping the integrity of our core movements as well. Good. And again, deepening as you feel like you can. Make sure those knees and those toes are going in the same direction here. So you don't feel bad if you want to kind of pause and just check out that alignment. In fact, I always think that's a good practice to get into. Pause and check the alignment. 3, 2, last one. All right, good. Holding goddess squat for just a second. Deepening in if you can. So we have a lot of hip openers with these prenatal yoga videos, because gotta keep those hips nice and open, get those strong. So here we are. Good. And we're gonna come up. We're gonna come to warrior 2 over one side here. Awesome. So warrior 2, knee on top of front ankle, knees going in the same direction as the toes, shoulders right on top of hips. Feel free, if you want to make it a little harder, deepen that back leg. If you want to make it a little easier, move that back leg inward a little bit. But the front leg always has the same setup. So here, I want you to engage this back leg, lift it, engage this top muscle here, your quadriceps. And we're going to inhale, lengthening, arms up to the sky, straightening that front leg, and then exhale, deepening into warrior 2. Inhale up and deepen. And inhale up and deepen. And notice I'm just kind of adjusting my back foot as I go. If I feel like I can go a little bit deeper now that I'm feeling warmer, now that I've played with this posture a little bit. So feel free to adjust as you go. We want to keep the shoulders right on top of the hips here. So rather than letting the chest kind of dive forward and collapse forward, as we bend, we keep little resistance towards the back to keep our shoulders over our hips. Good. One more. Ooh. And deepen and hold. Good, good. We're going to come to a right angle here. Now I'm going to have a modification for those of you who this is still a little too inverty. So right angle if it feels good. I'm choosing forearm on thigh today. If this is still a little too tipped forward for you, go ahead and pull up and make this bottom hand a floating hand. So that gets you a little more shallow in the pose, puts a little more work in the leg, but still gets you the stretch a little bit. You can also just place your hand up a little higher on your leg. But that's an option if I'm going deeper is not quite right for you today. Good. Take another breath in. Make sure weight's towards the heel, not sneaking all the way into the toes. Good. Lift up in that top hand, straighten that front leg, and we're going to briefly turn to crescent pose. So turn your focus to that front leg there. Good. And first I just want to play in our crescent pose. Again, kind of adjust your hip position if you need to, that tuck of the hips to find that right spot where you feel lengthen the hip flexor, core is engaged, and the low back isn't taking on too much pressure. So play with that position, spread the toes wide for balance. This is a balance posture. So if you need to grab a chair or something to help you balance, feel free. Good. So arms up if you like, otherwise you can have them at heart center, and you're just going to deepen that back knee, straighten the back knee, deepen, and straighten. And I'm challenging myself to not let my back arch more when I straighten that knee, because that can be a temptation. Certainly the deeper you go, the more you'll feel in your legs here. So just do what's right for you today. 2 more. 1 more. Up. Good. And from here, we're going to step it up. Woo, shake out the legs a little bit, shake out the arms, and we're going to come to a little bit of a balance eagle pose. So from here, you're going to lift tall in that, whatever that front leg was for you, you're going to lift tall in that hip, bring your hands to heart, and go ahead and start to lift up the other foot. If you can, and I'm going to face you just so you can see a little bit better, but if you can, go ahead and wrap the foot around once, and then maybe you can even tuck the toes around and kind of wrap a little deeper. Arms, you're just going to wrap, let's do right under left, and then again, this is a fine option, or you can try to get your palms together. Then from here, we're going to sit like you're sitting in a chair. Try to find one area of visual focus, your drishti. Maintain that little bit of core lift. Just thinking about lifting tall throughout the head. If you start to lose your balance, you tap down, just kind of come right back into it. There you go. 2 breaths. Good. We're going to unravel. If you can, maintain the lift. Good. If you need to tap down, take a break, that's fine. Sometimes your feet will even start to get tired here. And we're going to transition into tree pose. So placing that lifted foot on either your calf or your thigh, whichever works better for you, just not right on that knee joint. And again, maintain lift in this hip. It gets really easy to kind of, I call it the hey girl, hey hip, but just kind of sit into the hip. I want you to lift tall, lengthen through the top of the spine. Really, once you kind of figure out that position, it all goes together and it actually feels a lot better. But it gets really easy to just sit into the hip. All right, good. So you're still facing sideways. So facing sideways, we're going to bring that leg back into crescent pose. Feel free to drop that back heel if you need to. We're going to open up into a rotation. So rotate towards the back, continue to lengthen through that back leg. You can place this back hand on your hips for support and just a check-in if you like. Try to if you can, bring that rotation all the way through the neck. Look through that back shoulder. Requires a lot of balance. Good. And then unwrapping, come forward, facing that front leg. You're just going to step up again. And then we're just going to step back into the lunge. Step up and back. So notice I adjusted my arms. You can keep the arms lifted if you want a little bit more shoulder work, shoulder endurance here. Or you can bring the hands to heart if you need to, for lots of reasons. It sometimes isn't even that you can't do the combination, but you just rather focus on what the legs are doing, and that's okay. So feel free to keep your focus on one thing if you like. If you do have the arms up, make sure that's not affecting the position of your low back in a negative way. 2 more, you got it. That front leg might be starting to burn. Good. Hands stand up straight. Deep breath in, arms up above the head. Exhale, hands to heart. Take about a couple breaths here. Reset your focus, reset your intention. And briefly, we're coming back through Warrior 2. So open back up, same side. Inhale, arms come up to the sky. We're going to do one more set of goddess squats here. Exhale, deepen down. Inhale up. Good. Inhale down. Sorry, exhale down. Inhale up. You're following. Good. We all get reversed on the breath sometimes. Definitely happens. So if you like, you can keep going with the goddess squat. Otherwise, we can come down into a deep yogi squat. So if that's in your practice and you want kind of an opportunity to do this today, feel free to take the time. So play with the width of your legs to find what's comfortable for your belly, for your hips. We are pressing outward against our thighs with our tops of our arms, and then lift that chest up really tall. A little rock back and forth if it feels good. This does require some ankle flexibility. So if this is difficult, there's lots of ways we can modify, but feel free to just do the goddess squat if you prefer. All right, so whichever pose you're in, take a deep breath. Inhale. Exhale, place hands down if you're on the ground and come on up. Again, notice I kept my heart up a little bit more again for the heartburn. And we're gonna come warrior two on the other side. Excellent. All right, here we are. Inhale, straightening both legs and deepen down. Take just a second, actually. I lied to you. My apologies. Just to make sure your position is right. So again, knee in the same direction as your toes, adjusting your back leg as needed, shoulders over hips. And here we go. Good. Inhale up and down. Again, keeping those shoulders over the hips with a little bit of resistance in that back arm. Keeping that low back position, again, from arching too much. And I know I mentioned that a lot, and that's just because in pregnancy, belly really pulls us this way. So it's something that we have to focus on we have to focus on anyways during our yoga practice, but we have to focus a little bit harder on that when we are expecting. And as that belly gets bigger. 2 more. Last one. Good. Hold here, coming down to that right angle. So forearm to thigh. Again, option to go deeper if the heartburn will allow it today. Options come up to that floating hand or hand on the thigh if even the forearm to the thigh is a little too much. So adjust that back leg as needed for your flexibility today. Make sure this front knee is kind of pulling back so that it's not tipped forward in front of the ankle. Good. All right, lift up here. Woo. Good. And we're going to turn to crescent pose, facing that front leg. Again, adjust the tuck of the hips a little bit. Play with that position. Lengthen through the back leg as much as you can there. So just trying to find that balance where you feel a good stretch here, not too much pressure on your low back. Acknowledging any side-to-side differences. Again, feeling what you're feeling, and then continuing to move on in your practice. Deepen that back knee and straighten it out. Deepen, straighten, deepen, and straighten. 2 more. Try to keep this knee on top of the ankle if you can. Sometimes it likes to sneak back. Good. Straighten, and we're going to step on up. Coming into our eagle pose balance. Just going to lift tall in that standing hip. Top leg is going to wrap around as you can. Maybe you can only cross your legs. That's fine. If you want to try to tuck the toes in, you can. Arms, this time left under right. Just reversing from last time, and then sit into the chair as you can. It might be different side to side. Again, just acknowledge and then continue on with your practice. Really responding to where your body is now on this side, not worrying about where it was over there, but responding to your current presentation right here on this side. Good, and go ahead and stand up tall if you can. Keep the leg floating and move to tree pose. Lift tall in the hip. So we talked about that before on the other side. Instead of dipping in the hip, lift tall and balance. And again, I'm just turning towards you so you can see a little bit better. Good. Heart is lifted. Maintaining one place of visual gaze. Good, I'm going to turn back around. And go ahead and place the foot down, shake it out. Woo, awesome job. And you're going to take that leg, place it backwards, back into your crescent pose. Again, just reevaluating the hips for a second, and then come up and rotate, continuing to lengthen through that back leg. Look to the back hand if you can to take that rotation all the way up through the spine, even through the neck. Lengthening everywhere through the fingertips, down through the ground as if your feet were rooted deeper down through the ground, through that back heel, through the top of the head, reaching in every direction. Good. And then reach those arms back forward. We're going to step up to that front leg, and then moving back into the crescent pose, Tapping up again. Good. Starting to feel some work in this front leg here. Awesome. Again, hands can come to heart if you prefer. Good. Breathe with it. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale back. Exhale forward. Inhale back. Exhale. Take breaks when you need to. That is something that can be really hard if you're not a person who normally would take a break during exercise, but then you're expecting and everything is changing. The way your lungs are working, the way your heart is working, you have extra blood flow in your body. I know I am short of breath with any activity when I'm pregnant. So, listen to your body. If you need more breaks than you normally would, that's okay. Good. Last one. Hold it back. Open back up into warrior two. So we're going to catch up with our breath here in a second. Good. Open back up. And then just wiggle those feet inward. Hands to heart. And again, you can keep your hands at heart or up to the forehead if you like. Couple breaths. Again, just to check in. See how you're feeling here. Good. And we're going to come down to the ground here. So coming first into a cross-leg position, if you like, then we're going to extend one leg out, other leg just stays in here. So we're going to do just a little brief stretching series. And really good focus for you here would be to think up and out rather than down and close to the ground. And that's going to help with heartburn and us honestly just help you get a better stretch. So in this position, if you're already feeling a stretch, just lift the chest tall and breathe in this position. If you like, you can reach up and out and go a little bit further. So I'm using a block today. You can have hands on the ground, but notice you're keeping that chest lifted. And again, that's going to help with both heartburn and really you maintaining the integrity of the stretch anyways. I'm reaching through my heel just very lightly here. And just adjust the other foot just so it's comfortable. Not kicking your baby or anything. Couple deep breaths. And again, through this whole thing, just acknowledging what you're feeling in your body. And then continuing on as we move about here. Good. Moving the hands up, opposite side out. So again, just start with a lift. See what you feel in this position. I think sometimes we automatically try to go deep into the stretch and we skip paying attention to what we even feel during the setup. So you might feel a stretch here. Acknowledge what you feel, where you feel it. And then if you'd like to deepen in, you can. And then you're not skipping or missing out on something that you might have found otherwise. If you kind of take it a little slower, pay attention to what you're feeling the whole time. I think one thing I love about yoga is you're focusing a lot on the transitions, not just once you get to the pose, but how you get there, what it feels like to get there, what's engaged on your way to that position, balance. So I think that that's really important because there's a lot of good stuff in that middle ground there, in those transitions. Good. Come back up. This time, we're going to wrap the legs in. So one leg on top. Doesn't matter what you start with. We'll just reverse it here. So wrap up a little, as tight as you feel comfortable today. You're going to inhale, arms up. So I have my right leg on top. My right leg on top. I'm going to take my left arm to the outside of my right leg. Lift tall in the chest. And then rotate, spin towards that back shoulder. Little spinal twist here. Constantly lengthen as you inhale. Exhale and think about rotating a little bit deeper. Keeping the pose moving even when you feel like you found your end place. One more here. Slowly unwind. Woo. And switch legs. So left leg's on top here. My right arm's going to come up and come to the outside. I'm maintaining that length, reaching the left arm back. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. Rotate. Lengthen up. Moving a little bit deeper. Just, again, keeping energy, keeping movement in the pose, even when you technically got to that end range. Good. Slowly unwind, loosen the legs just to a comfortable position. We're going to do a side stretch here. So arms come up, inhale above the head. Exhale, reaching over to one side and lengthening down the opposite side body. Now, for me, this is a pose I absolutely love my block on. And then here you just want to really sink the shoulder down so we're not coming up into the ears. Sink this hip down as you're reaching to the opposite side. So there's this opposing pull here. As my arm reaches to the right, my left hip is reaching down, and then I'm rotating open in my chest. Good. Reach up with that top arm, opposite side, up and over. Again, block, no block, whatever you want to do, whatever feels good. Sinking down in the shoulder as I reach to one side, my hip reaches to the opposite. Lots of length here. You can look up towards that hand or up towards the sky if you like, or you can just kind of keep the head in neutral. Again, it's whatever feels more comfortable to you. Just want to keep that neck relaxed is the idea, and they're not tense. Good. And coming back up. Hands come behind the body here. We're just linking the fingers behind the body. And you're going to open up your chest here. Take a nice deep breath in. Little squeeze in the upper back, but we're lengthening through the back of the neck so that this doesn't happen. If you can't quite reach those hands, that's okay. Just reach them towards each other. That's perfectly fine. You can even, hold a block if you like. You can use a strap or any material you have laying around the house to kind of reach them towards each other. Just lengthening in the chest here. Good. All right, let those hands float back to your knees. Just do a couple shoulder shrugs, shoulder rolls, loosen up a little bit. Just more all about loosening up. Good. And from here, we're going to go ahead and end there today. So I want you to bring your hands to heart center. Take a deep breath in and out. For one final time, bring yourself back to your intention for your practice today. And then I want you to give yourself a little compliment, choosing to end this practice with thoughts of positivity towards yourself. And one more breath all together. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Namaste.